The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's sky on a clear morning in 2157. It hung there like a silver island, bigger than anything humans had ever built. For 3 days, it just watched. Then it sent its message to every screen on the planet. People of Earth, we are the Galactic Alliance. We come seeking your help. World leaders gathered in New York as tall blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms stepped out of their landing craft. Admiral Zex Terra, leader of the Alliance mission, spoke in perfect English. A terrible enemy threatens all life in the galaxy. The Void Dominion destroys everything in its path. We offer Earth membership in our alliance, but we need your soldiers to help fight this war. After a week of tense talks, Earth's nations agreed to join. When Alliance representatives asked for Earth's youngest and strongest to join their military, General Williams of the United States stood up. With respect, Admiral, we have a different offer. We will send our veterans instead. Admiral Zex Terra looked confused. His 4 hands twitched nervously. Veterans, you mean your old warriors? In the Alliance, we send our youngest to war. They learn faster and are stronger. General Williams smiled. Our veterans have something no young recruit can match: real battle experience. Theory is good, but nothing teaches like survival. The Alliance representatives whispered among themselves. They had studied Earth and knew humans fought many wars against each other. Still, how could these aging soldiers help against advanced enemies? Very well, Admiral Zex Terra finally said. Send your veterans. We will find suitable duties for them. 2 months later, Colonel Maya Ramirez stood in a hangar watching her soldiers board the Alliance transport ship. At 52, her black hair showed streaks of gray, and old scars marked her face. She had fought in 3 wars and led troops through the worst fighting in Mexico and Venezuela. They're putting us in the back lines, said Master Sergeant Chen Wei, appearing beside her. At 48, Chen looked calm and dangerous. His eyes missed nothing. Before joining Ramirez's unit, he had spent 15 years in Special Forces. Of course they are, Ramirez said, checking her tablet one last time. They think we're too old, too primitive. Just extra hands to help with supplies and repairs. Chen watched as former Army Ranger Captain Jackson directed troops up the ramp. Jackson had lost his left leg below the knee to an IED years ago. His advanced prosthetic let him move like a much younger man. They have no idea what's coming, do they, Colonel? Chen asked quietly. Around them, 400 veterans prepared to leave Earth. Men and women who had fought in deserts, jungles, mountains, and cities. They carried few personal items but brought decades of hard-earned knowledge no training program could provide. Ramirez smiled as the massive Alliance ship prepared to take them to the stars. No, Sergeant. They have no idea at all. As Earth grew smaller in the viewing screens, Colonel Ramirez addressed her battalion. They think they know battle because they have better weapons and technology. Soon, they'll learn what real warriors can do. The veterans nodded. They didn't need fancy speeches. They had all faced death before and lived to tell about it. Now they would teach the galaxy what that meant. 3 months passed on the space station called Outreach 7. Colonel Ramirez watched her soldiers clean floors, fix machines, and move boxes. The Alliance had put the Earth veterans far from any fighting. They gave them the jobs no one else wanted. The human veterans did not complain, but Ramirez could see the fire in their eyes. These were soldiers who had faced death many times. Now they were treated like children who knew nothing of war. The station buzzed with alien activity. The insect-like Vrex soldiers marched in perfect lines, their hard shells gleaming under the lights. The tall, thin luminals moved silently, speaking to each other with their minds instead of words. Both species looked at humans with a mix of pity and amusement. Another cleaning duty, Colonel? Master Sergeant Chen asked as he entered Ramirez's small office. His face showed no emotion, but she knew he felt the same frustration as everyone else. Not today, Chen. We've been invited to watch their combat training. Ramirez stood up. The station commander wants to show us how real soldiers fight. Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. How kind of him. They walked through the curved hallways of the station until they reached the large training room. Sub-Marshal Ixel, the station commander, stood tall and proud. His pale skin glowed with a soft blue light. Like all luminals, he could read thoughts and emotions of his own kind across great distances. "Ah, the Earth primitives," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Welcome. I thought you might learn something from watching actual military training." Ramirez nodded politely. "Thank you for the opportunity, Sub-Marshal." The training began. Vrex soldiers fired energy weapons at moving targets. Luminal officers directed troops using only their minds. It was impressive, with flashing lights and perfect coordination. "You see," Sub-Marshal Ixel explained, "this is real warfare, not the primitive tribal conflicts of Earth. Our soldiers train from birth. They follow orders perfectly. They never question command." Ramirez watched carefully. She noticed how the troops always followed the same patterns. How they froze for a second when something unexpected happened. How none of them had the look that she recognized in her own veterans. The look of someone who had faced real danger and survived. "Very impressive," she said, choosing her words carefully. "Your technology is far beyond ours." Ixel smiled wider. "Of course it is. Earth has only recently discovered space travel. You should be grateful we allow you to serve in any capacity." Just then, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the hallways. Void Dominion scouts detected. A voice announced over the speakers, "All personnel to battle stations." Sub-Marshal Ixel's face changed instantly. "Training exercise over. To your positions." As alien troops rushed to their stations, Ramirez and Chen watched calmly. They saw the panic hidden beneath the aliens' disciplined movements. They noticed how officers shouted contradicting orders and how younger troops looked around in confusion. "They've never been attacked before, have they?" Chen asked quietly. "No," Ramirez replied. "Look at their defense positions. No overlapping fields of fire, no fallback points, no one watching the maintenance tunnels." That night, after the false alarm ended, Ramirez gathered her veterans in the human quarters. They stood in a circle, battle-hardened men and women who had been fighting in Earth's wars, while these aliens enjoyed peace. "Be ready," she told them simply. "The real fighting will start soon. And when it does, remember your training. Remember what real combat feels like." She looked at each face, seeing understanding in their eyes. They think they know battle. Soon they'll learn differently. The veterans nodded. They didn't need to speak. They knew what was coming. 2 weeks later, the alarms were not a drill. Outreach 7 shook as enemy weapons hit its shields. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor. "Void Dominion attack force." The announcement echoed through the station. "This is not a drill." Colonel Ramirez was in the mess hall with 30 of her veterans when the first hit came. Without a word, they moved quickly to their quarters to get their weapons. The Alliance had given humans basic rifles, considering them too primitive to handle advanced weapons. In the command center, Sub-Marshal Ixel shouted orders as screens showed enemy ships surrounding the station. "Deploy defense pattern Lumina 6. All telepaths link now," he commanded. The luminal officers closed their eyes, connecting their minds to coordinate the defense. The insect-like Vrex soldiers moved to their battle stations in perfect formation. For 10 minutes, the battle in space seemed to go according to Alliance plans. Then the enemy changed tactics. They stopped attacking the main shields and targeted the communication arrays instead. "They're not following standard attack patterns," a luminal officer cried. "We can't coordinate our response." Sub-Marshal Ixel's face showed confusion. "Fall back to secondary protocols. Maintain psychic link." Just then, a new alarm sounded. "Hull breach in southern quadrant. Enemy boarding parties detected." Ixel's face went pale. The southern quadrant was where the human quarters were located. "Seal off that section," he ordered. We cannot spare forces to defend it. In the southern quadrant, Ramirez and her veterans heard the hull breach alarms. They felt the vibration as enemy ships cut through the station's outer wall. Chen, take your squad and cover the main corridor, Ramirez ordered calmly. Jackson, set up a crossfire position at Junction B. Rodriguez. Prepare the medical station. The veterans moved without hesitation, without fear. They had all faced death before. This was just another battlefield, even if it was in space. The first Void Dominion soldiers broke through into the human section. They were tall, dark figures with 4 arms and faces hidden behind black masks. They carried energy weapons that could cut through metal. They expected to find the section empty or defended by panicked, untrained humans. Instead, they walked into carefully planned defensive positions. Captain Jackson and his team had overturned tables and storage containers, creating barriers that forced the enemies into a narrow path. When the first group of 8 Dominion soldiers entered, they were caught in crossfire from 3 directions. Fire, Jackson ordered, and 20 veterans opened fire at once. The basic Alliance rifles might not be advanced, but in experienced hands, they were deadly enough. In another corridor, Chen and his Special Forces veterans moved silently through maintenance tunnels the aliens didn't even know existed. They appeared behind a group of Dominion soldiers, attacking from an impossible direction. Colonel Ramirez coordinated it all from a makeshift command post, using hand signals and short-range radios instead of the telepathic network the Alliance relied on. When that network failed under Dominion jamming, the aliens froze. The humans kept fighting. In the command center, Sub-Marshal Ixel watched in shock as security feeds showed the human veterans not just surviving but winning against the Dominion boarding party. Impossible, he whispered, watching Master Sergeant Chen take down 3 Dominion soldiers with combat moves no Alliance warrior had ever seen. They're just primitives. After 20 minutes of intense fighting, the last Dominion soldier in the southern quadrant fell. As Alliance forces in other sections still struggled to repel boarders, the humans had already secured their area, treated their wounded, and were checking captured enemy weapons. Sub-Marshal Ixel arrived personally with his guards to see for himself. He found Colonel Ramirez calmly directing her troops to fortify their positions against a possible second attack. "How did you know exactly what to do?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion and new respect. Ramirez looked at him with steady eyes. "We didn't," she said simply. "But we've all been in worse situations with less support." She gestured to her veterans, who were efficiently preparing for the next fight. This is what veterans do. News of the human veterans' success spread quickly through Alliance channels. 1 week after the attack, a large Alliance ship docked at Outreach 7. Grand Marshal Telix, the legendary Vrex commander, had come to see these strange humans himself. The Grand Marshal was an impressive sight. Standing 7 feet tall with a hard green shell covering his body, he had fought in wars for over 100 years. 4 scar marks crossed his face like badges of honor. All Alliance soldiers respected and feared him. Colonel Ramirez and her senior officers waited in the meeting room. Captain Jackson stood tall on his prosthetic leg. Master Sergeant Chen remained silent in the corner, watching everything. Lieutenant Rodriguez, their best combat medic, sat with her hands folded neatly on the table. Grand Marshal Telix entered with Sub-Marshal Ixel and 4 armed guards. His yellow eyes studied each human carefully. "So these are the primitive warriors who defended the southern quadrant," he said, his voice deep and clicking. "I have reviewed the battle footage. You fought. Unusually." "We fought to win, Marshal," Ramirez replied simply. Telix placed a device on the table. It showed a hologram of the battle, replaying scenes of the human defense. "Explain this," he demanded, pointing to human soldiers using hand signals instead of psychic communication. "Why did you disable your communication implants?" Chen spoke for the first time. "They can be jammed, tracked, hacked. Hand signals can't." Telix's eyes narrowed. "And this?" The hologram showed humans changing positions during the fight, adapting as the situation changed. You abandoned the defense plan in the middle of battle. No plan survives contact with the enemy, Captain Jackson said. We adapted. Without orders. Telek seemed shocked. How did you coordinate? Ramirez leaned forward. Marshal, there's something we call battlefield instinct. It comes from experience. My veterans have fought in real wars. They know when to hold position and when to move without being told. Telek clicked his mandibles in frustration. The Alliance military is built on perfect coordination and discipline. Your methods are chaotic. War is chaos, Rodriguez added quietly. The side that adapts faster wins. Your soldiers train for war, Ramirez explained. Ours have lived it. That's the difference. Telek was silent for a long time. Then his aide whispered something to him. The Marshal nodded slowly. Intelligence reports indicate the Dominion is planning a major offensive against 5 Alliance worlds. We are losing this war. He looked at the humans with new eyes. Perhaps we need different thinking. For the next 3 days, Grand Marshal Telek watched the human veterans train. He saw them practice fighting with weapons disabled, communications jammed, in darkness, while wounded. The Alliance soldiers never trained for failure. The humans trained for every possible disaster. On the final day, Telek made his decision. He gathered the Alliance officers and the human veterans in the main hall. Colonel Ramirez and her Earth veterans will begin training Alliance troops in survival and combat techniques, he announced. Many Alliance officers looked unhappy. This is not optional. As the meeting ended, Telek approached Ramirez privately. I do not fully understand your methods, he admitted, but I cannot ignore results. The Dominion adapts too quickly to our standard tactics. We'll teach your troops what we can, Marshal, Ramirez promised. But remember, experience can't be taught in a classroom. It must be earned. The training began the next day. Alliance soldiers struggled with the human concepts. The telepathic luminals couldn't understand why they needed to practice when communications were cut. The armored Vrex warriors didn't see the point of taking cover when their shells were so strong. But slowly, reluctantly, they began to learn. The first seeds of respect were planted. The Alliance was beginning to understand what humans had known for centuries. True warriors are forged in battle, not created in training rooms. 5 months had passed since the first attack. Outreach 7 had grown into an important supply hub for the Alliance. More human veterans had arrived, and training of Alliance troops continued despite resistance from many alien officers. Colonel Ramirez sat in her office studying reports when the emergency alarms blared. The station shook violently. Multiple Dominion warships detected. The announcement system warned. All personnel to battle stations. Ramirez grabbed her weapon and ran to the command center. The scene was chaos. Screens showed 20 enemy ships surrounding the station. Sub-Marshal Ixel was shouting orders, but no one seemed to be listening. They've targeted our communication arrays again, an officer reported. Psychic network is failing. Our main defense systems are offline. Another cried. We detected sabotage in the lower levels, a third reported. Enemy agents must have infiltrated the station. As the Alliance command structure collapsed, Ramirez made a quick decision. She tapped her personal communicator. All human veterans, this is Colonel Ramirez. Activate Operation Throwback. I repeat, activate Operation Throwback. This is not a drill. Throughout the station, human veterans dropped whatever they were doing and moved with purpose. It was a plan they had prepared for this exact situation, though the Alliance commanders had dismissed it as unnecessary. What is Operation Throwback? Ixel demanded, his face pale with stress. A backup plan, Ramirez replied calmly. When your high-tech systems fail, we fall back on methods that have worked for centuries. Across the station, human veterans took charge. In the northern section, Captain Jackson established a defensive perimeter using overturned equipment and sealed doors. In the engine rooms, former combat engineers led by Lieutenant Franklin bypassed automated systems to operate the station's weapons manually. In the medical bay, Lieutenant Rodriguez organized trade centers for the wounded. Master Sergeant Chen led a team of former Special Forces veterans through maintenance tunnels to hunt down saboteurs. They moved silently, using hand signals and battery-powered radios that couldn't be jammed like the Alliance systems. When the main Dominion force breached the hangar bay, they expected to find confusion and panic. Instead, they walked into a carefully prepared trap. Human veterans had created layers of defenses, with overlapping fields of fire and multiple fallback positions. "Fall back to position 2, Jackson ordered as the first line was overwhelmed. His soldiers retreated in an orderly fashion, continuing to fire as they moved. When the Dominion forces pushed forward, they triggered explosive traps that the humans had placed earlier. In the command center, Sub-Marshal Ixel watched in amazement as Colonel Ramirez directed the defense from a table covered with paper maps and a simple radio. When the main computer failed, the Alliance officers froze, but Ramirez continued giving clear orders. "Southern section reporting Dominion forces repelled," came a voice over Ramirez's radio. "Engine room secure," reported another. "Saboteurs eliminated," Chen's voice added, moving to support hangar defense team. The battle raged for 30 hours. When Alliance reinforcements finally arrived, they expected to find Outreach 7 destroyed. Instead, they found the station damaged, but still standing, still fighting. Grand Marshal Telix arrived with the reinforcement fleet. He made his way to what remained of the command center and found Ramirez surrounded by her officers and a mix of Alliance species who had fought alongside the humans. The command center's advanced technology was mostly destroyed. Instead, Ramirez had established a command post in the station's mess hall, using paper maps, markers, and simple radios to coordinate the defense. "How?" Telix asked, looking around in disbelief. "How did you hold this position with no psychic coordination and inferior weapons?" Ramirez, her uniform torn and bloodied, stood straight and met his eyes. "With all due respect, Marshal," she said, "this wasn't our last stand. The successful defense of Outreach 7 changed everything." 2 weeks after the battle, Grand Marshal Telix called Colonel Ramirez to his command ship. She found him standing before a large window, watching ships move through space. "We need more of your veterans," he said without turning. "Not as support staff, as combat leaders." Ramirez raised an eyebrow. "That's a big change from where we started, Marshal." Telix turned to face her. "The Dominion adapts too quickly to our standard tactics. We've been fighting this war for 3 years and losing ground every month." His mandibles clicked with frustration. "Your people held a station with paper maps and radios when our best technology failed." He activated a hologram showing a new battle group of ships. "I've created Operation Crucible. You will be promoted to Alliance Commander and given authority to implement human combat methods throughout this fleet." Ramirez studied the hologram. Mixed units, humans and Alliance soldiers fighting together. "Yes, it has never been done before." Telix's yellow eyes fixed on her. "Many will resist, but we have no choice." The next day, Ramirez gathered her senior officers to explain their new mission. Captain Jackson would develop ground combat training. Lieutenant Rodriguez would implement human medical procedures, and Master Sergeant Chen would create a special forces unit combining human tactics with Alliance abilities. "This won't be easy," Ramirez told them. "They respect us a little more now, but they still think their ways are better." Chen nodded. "When do we start?" "Immediately," she replied. "And there's something else you should know." She lowered her voice. "Marshal Telix told me the truth. The Alliance is losing this war badly. The Dominion adapts too quickly, and Alliance forces retreat when plans fail. They've been fighting wars with strategists," Jackson remarked, "while we fight with warriors." The integration was difficult. Alliance soldiers struggled to understand human concepts. The tall, telepathic luminals couldn't grasp why fighting spirit mattered. The heavily armored Vrex couldn't see why taking cover was important when their shells were so strong. In the training arena, Captain Jackson watched a Vrex soldier stand in the open during a simulated attack. "You'd be dead," Jackson told him. The Vrex tapped his hard shell. "Our armor protects us." Jackson shook his head. "Let me show you something." He pulled out a small device and projected images of Earth's wars. Tanks destroyed by simple explosives, armored vehicles burning. No armor is perfect. The warrior who thinks he's invincible dies first. Slowly, the lessons began to take hold. Master Sergeant Chen trained a team of infiltrators, combining human stealth tactics with the natural abilities of different Alliance species. The luminals could communicate silently with their minds. The Vrex had incredible strength. Together with human experience, they became something new. In the medical bay, Lieutenant Rodriguez showed Alliance doctors human triage methods. "You don't try to save everyone at once," she explained. "You save those you can save now, then move to the next. It seems cruel, but it saves more lives in the end." After 6 weeks of intensive training, Marshal Telex called Ramirez to review their progress. "Intelligence has located a Dominion command post in the Cygnus Reach," he said. "It's heavily defended. Our normal approach would be a major fleet action." Ramirez studied the information. That would be expected. They'd be ready. "What would humans do?" Telex asked. Ramirez smiled. "Something they wouldn't expect. A small team, inserted quietly. Get in, gather intelligence. Get out. A covert raid? Behind enemy lines." Telex seemed shocked. "The Alliance has never attempted such a mission." "Then it's time we did," Ramirez replied. "And I know just the person to lead it." Master Sergeant Chen stood before 12 mixed teams of human and Alliance special operators. Each team had 6 members, 2 humans and 4 aliens with different abilities. They were about to attempt something the Alliance had never done before, a covert mission deep into enemy territory. "Operation Shadow Strike begins in 6 hours, Chen explained, his voice calm and steady. "Our mission is simple. Infiltrate the Dominion command facility, gather intelligence, and get out without being detected." A tall luminal officer raised his hand. "What if we are detected?" Chen's face remained neutral. "Then we adapt and complete the mission anyway." The teams boarded small, fast ships designed to avoid detection. As they approached the target planet, Chen briefed his team one last time. "Remember your training. No psychic communication unless absolutely necessary. They can detect it. Use the hand signals we practiced. If we get separated, continue the mission. The objective comes first." As they entered the planet's atmosphere, disaster struck immediately. Enemy defenses were stronger than intelligence had reported. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky. "Evasive maneuvers," Chen ordered, but it was too late for some. 3 ships exploded in bright flashes. The remaining 9 scattered, trying to find safe landing zones. Chen's ship crash-landed in a dense forest 5 miles from the target. As they climbed from the wreckage, he did a quick check of his team. 2 humans and 3 aliens, all alive but shaken. "Communications are down," reported Crix, a Vrex soldier. "We cannot contact the other teams or command." "The mission parameters have changed," Chen said calmly, checking his weapons, "but the objective remains valid." The luminal officer, Teller, looked horrified. "Alliance protocol says to abort when communications fail and more than 20% of forces are lost." Chen simply looked at him. "We're not following an Alliance protocol. We're following mine." He pointed toward the distant outline of the Dominion facility. "We have a job to do." Over the next 20 hours, the surviving teams made their way through enemy territory. Chen's group moved mostly at night, using Earth guerrilla tactics that confused their Alliance teammates. When they encountered a Dominion patrol, Chen didn't avoid it as the Alliance would have done. Instead, he set up an ambush, using the environment to their advantage. The Vrex provided strength, the Luminal used limited telepathy to coordinate, and the humans provided the battle experience to make it work. Why take unnecessary risks? Teller asked after they defeated the patrol. Because now we have their uniforms and identification, Chen explained, stripping equipment from the fallen enemies. And we know their patrol schedules and codes. He handed Dominion communication devices to his team. This is how humans have fought against superior forces for centuries. We use the enemy's strength against them. When they finally reached the command facility, Chen's plan worked perfectly. Disguised as Dominion troops, they walked straight through the front entrance. Inside, they downloaded critical intelligence about Dominion battle plans. But they also discovered something unexpected. The enemy had been specifically targeting command and control systems because their intelligence showed Alliance forces could not function without central direction. This confirms what we suspected, Chen told his team. Their entire strategy is built around disrupting Alliance communications. They've never faced an enemy that can operate independently. As they prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. We've been discovered, Crix hissed, raising his weapon. Stay calm, Chen ordered. Remember the extraction plan. They fought their way toward the exit, but found themselves cornered by elite Dominion hunters in a storage area. During the fierce firefight, Chen moved to protect a fallen teammate and took a severe hit to his chest. As he collapsed, bleeding badly, the Luminal officer Teller surprised everyone. Instead of freezing or following standard Alliance retreat procedures, he took command. Defensive positions, he ordered, using the hand signals Chen had taught them. Crix, lay down covering fire. Humans, prepare smoke grenades. We're getting out through the side entrance. As they carried the wounded Chen toward their extraction point, Teller kept one hand on the human's shoulder at all times. Stay with us, Master Sergeant, he said. That's an order. Following the successful raid, Alliance High Command could no longer ignore what human veterans brought to the war. The intelligence recovered by Chen's team had saved 3 Alliance worlds from surprise attacks. Now, the Alliance formally integrated Earth's veterans into all levels of their military. Colonel Ramirez, promoted to Alliance General, stood in the observation deck of what had once been an Alliance training center. Now it was the Interspecies Combat Academy. Here, human veterans taught alien soldiers the intangible aspects of warfare that couldn't be programmed into computers. They still don't fully understand, she told Captain Jackson as they watched training exercises below. But they're starting to learn. Jackson nodded. Change is hard, especially for species that have lived for centuries with one way of thinking. In the training arena, Alliance soldiers from a dozen different worlds practiced fighting without their advanced technology. When communication systems were jammed, they used hand signals. When sensors failed, they relied on their eyes and ears. When plans failed, they adapted. Many Alliance officers still resisted these methods, calling them primitive and unnecessarily harsh. But the results couldn't be ignored. Units trained by humans survived when others did not. The breakthrough came when we introduced what we call the veteran's perspective. Ramirez explained to Grand Marshal Telix during his inspection tour. They entered a classroom where human veterans sat with young Alliance soldiers, telling stories of Earth's wars. Not as entertainment, but as vital lessons. At first, they thought these were just old warriors bragging, Ramirez said. Then they realized every story contained hard-earned wisdom about survival. An old human veteran with a prosthetic leg was speaking to a group of luminals. When my squad was cut off in the mountains for 6 days, we had no communication, limited supplies, and enemies all around us. But we survived because we trusted each other and adapted to each situation as it came. The luminals, who relied so heavily on their telepathic connection, struggled to imagine being so isolated. But they listened intently. They were beginning to understand. In the medical bay, now run by Lieutenant Rodriguez, Alliance doctors learned human triage methods that had evolved through centuries of battlefield medicine. Your technology is amazing, Rodriguez told them. But it can fail. When it does, you need to know how to save lives with whatever you have available. Meanwhile, Master Sergeant Chen recovered from his wounds in the medical center. Despite doctors' orders to rest, he worked with Alliance engineers from his bed, redesigning equipment based on human battlefield experience. Your technology is too dependent on central control, he explained to the engineers. Every piece of equipment needs backup systems, manual overrides. It needs to work even when everything else fails. The new hybrid weapons and armor seemed primitive to Alliance designers, but proved invaluable in combat. The chest plate that saved a wrecked soldier from a direct hit. The rifle that kept firing after being submerged in water. The communication device that worked even during enemy jamming. 6 months after the academy opened, the first graduates deployed to frontline positions. Alliance commanders reported a startling transformation. Their troops no longer froze when plans failed. They communicated when communications were jammed. They held positions without constant direction. For the first time in the war, Alliance forces displayed something previously unique to humans: battle rhythm. The ability to sense how a fight was flowing and adapt accordingly. Ramirez watched the graduation ceremony of the Academy's second class. Humans and aliens standing side by side, no longer separated by species, but united by shared experience. They told me humans were primitive, Illuminal Commander said to her. But now I understand. You haven't lacked technology. You've simply never forgotten the warrior's most important weapon. He touched his head. The ability to think independently. Ramirez nodded. That's the veteran's gift to the Alliance. Not just how to fight, but how to think when fighting. 8 months after the first human veterans entered Alliance service, everything changed. Alliance forces, now trained in human combat methods, prepared for Operation Inevitable Dawn, the first major attack against the Dominion. General Ramirez stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship, studying holographic maps of enemy territory. 20 human veterans served as advisors to Alliance captains throughout the fleet. Their target was the Helix Nexus, a critical junction of space routes that would split Dominion territory in two. The plan is set, Ramirez told Grand Marshal Telex. The main fleet will attack here, drawing their attention. Meanwhile, our real attack forces will strike these seemingly random targets. Telex studied the plan. These targets appear unconnected. What is the strategy? Ramirez smiled. It's based on Earth military history. We're not just attacking military targets. We're attacking their confidence, their supply lines, their coordination. We're making them feel unsafe everywhere at once. The battle began conventionally. The main Alliance fleet moved toward the Central Dominion defenses, following established tactics. The Dominion responded as expected, moving their reserves to counter this apparent main threat. They've committed their reserves, reported a luminal officer, all according to predictions. Now, ordered Ramirez. Across Dominion space, smaller Alliance forces suddenly struck targets that seemed random to the enemy. Communication relays, supply depots, sensor stations. The Dominion commanders, used to the Alliance's predictable tactics, couldn't understand this new approach. When the Dominion tried to jam Alliance communications, they discovered the Alliance ships continued fighting effectively. When they targeted supply lines, field units implemented human-designed backup plans to operate with minimal support. On the third day of battle, Dominion forces cornered Ramirez's command ship. In the past, this would have been a devastating blow to Alliance operations. The enemy expected the Alliance fleet to fall into confusion or retreat once their command was threatened. Instead, every ship in the Alliance fleet continued fighting according to mission parameters. The battle transformed from a coordinated dance into what humans recognized as a proper fight: chaotic, brutal, and unpredictable. Enemy forces breaking formation in Sector 7, reported an officer. Ramirez nodded. They expected us to collapse when communications were disrupted. They don't understand that every ship captain now knows how to fight independently. A massive Dominion warship approached Ramirez's command vessel. As it prepared to fire, 3 Alliance ships attacked it from different angles, using tactics Captain Jackson had developed based on Earth's naval warfare history. Dominion flagship is retreating, announced a Vrex officer, his mandibles clicking in excitement. They've never retreated before. After 3 days of continuous fighting, the Alliance secured the Helix Nexus. For the first time since the war began, the Dominion had lost significant territory. Alliance forces that had been trained by humans suffered 40% fewer casualties than those using traditional methods. In the aftermath, Ramirez personally interrogated the highest-ranking Dominion prisoner, a tall commander with gray skin and 6 eyes. "We studied all Alliance species and their warfare doctrines," the Dominion commander said, confusion in his voice. "We were prepared for every contingency. What changed?" An Alliance officer who had graduated from Ramirez Academy stepped forward. This luminal had fought alongside Master Surgeon Chen during the raid on the Dominion command post. He had carried Chen to safety when the human was wounded. Now he wore the scars of battle proudly, just as his human teachers did. "We met Earth's veterans," he answered simply. That night, Ramirez sent a message to Earth, requesting more veterans to join the war effort. The message included battle footage showing Alliance soldiers fighting with human methods and winning. Within 1 week, 10,000 more Earth veterans volunteered. They hadn't fought together on Earth. They had been enemies in Earth's wars. But now they came together to teach the galaxy what they all understood: the true nature of battle. 1 year after Earth joined the Galactic Alliance, the war reached its final stage. The combined Alliance-Earth forces, now fully integrated at all levels, prepared for Operation Final Reckoning, the attack on the Dominion homeworlds. General Ramirez stood in Alliance High Command, watching as the battle plan she had designed unfolded across multiple star systems. Around her, officers from a dozen alien species worked alongside human veterans. The plan combined elements from Earth's most successful military campaigns throughout history, adapted to space warfare. "The Dominion expects us to attack their main defenses directly," Ramirez explained to the gathered commanders. "Instead, we will use deception operations like those from Earth's Second World War, guerrilla tactics from our insurgency conflicts, and combined arms doctrine from modern warfare." The Dominion, unable to predict these hybrid tactics, suffered defeat after defeat. Their forces, trained to fight the Alliance's traditional approach, found themselves outmaneuvered by enemies who no longer followed predictable patterns. Master Surgeon Chen, now recovered from his wounds and promoted to Alliance Command Sergeant Major, led a Special Forces unit of mixed human-alien operators. They struck behind enemy lines, causing confusion and drawing forces away from the main battle. "The enemy still thinks in terms of front lines and rear areas," Chen told his teams. "We will show them that in real war, nowhere is safe." The final battle took place in orbit around the Dominion capital world. As the fighting reached its peak, a desperate Dominion counterattack destroyed communication systems on both sides. In previous years, this would have spelled disaster for Alliance forces. Instead, ships commanded by Academy graduates continued fighting effectively. Captains made independent decisions based on mission objectives rather than waiting for orders. The battle transformed from a single coordinated action into hundreds of individual engagements, exactly the type of chaotic environment where human combat doctrine excelled. In the command center of the Dominion capital, the Overlord watched in disbelief as his forces collapsed. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his generals. "They should be in disarray without their command structure." "They fight differently now," a general replied, fear in his voice. "Each unit continues fighting even when cut off. They adapt constantly. They are not the same Alliance we faced before." After 5 days of intense fighting, the Dominion High Command surrendered. They requested to meet the architects of their defeat, expecting to find advanced AI strategists or telepathic masterminds. Instead, they found themselves face to face with Ramirez, Chen, and other human veterans, beings they had dismissed as primitives. How did creatures with such short lifespans and limited technology develop such mastery of warfare? The Dominion Overlord asked, his 6 eyes studying the humans with new respect. Chen answered with simple truth. We had no choice. On Earth, war found us whether we wanted it or not. What you're seeing isn't technological superiority or aggression. It's the accumulated wisdom of millions who fought, suffered, and survived. That's the veteran's legacy. In the years that followed, the Alliance established the Earth Combat Doctrine Academy as a permanent institution. Human veterans became respected teachers throughout galactic society, not for their capacity to wage war, but for their hard-won wisdom about surviving it. The greatest testament to their impact came 50 years later, when a new threat emerged at the galaxy's edge. A young luminal admiral, facing her first major command, felt uncertainty creeping in until she remembered the words of her human instructor from decades earlier. Battle is never about who has the better plan, the old human veteran had told her. It's about who best survives when all plans fail. The admiral adjusted her strategy accordingly, drawing on lessons taught by those who came before. In that moment, Earth's veterans, most long since returned home or passed away, continued to shape the galaxy's future. They had taught the stars that true battle mastery comes not from technology or theory, but from the resilience of those who have faced war's reality and emerged wiser for it. The Alliance would never again underestimate the quiet strength of veterans, regardless of which world they called home.